Ours is a culture where we wear our ability to get by on very little sleep as a kind of badge of honour that symbolises work ethic or toughness. But really, it's just a total profound failure of priorities and self-respect. Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. My name's Sanji, I'm a second year medical student studying at the University of Melbourne, and in this video I just wanted to touch on the topic of sleep and how you don't necessarily need to wake up at 5 AM to have a productive day. So I think one of the major reasons why we've associated 5 AM wake-ups with productivity is because we know that there's thousands of people in social media with the exact same video, how my 5 AM morning routine changed my life. And so when we see all these other people doing all these things before they head off to uni or to work, it makes us feel like we aren't being productive and we aren't really getting that much out of our day. The fact of the matter is that unless we're working from home, a lot of us don't get to choose when we wake up. Some of us have work, some have school and some have kids, right? You don't really get to dictate when you wake up, when you have these commitments. Even with me, when I'm on my emergency rotation versus my surgical rotation, I have to wake up earlier to make my surgical ward rounds. And I think that there's this concept going around that getting less sleep is more productive because you have more hours in your day. But it's really not. I think it becomes a little toxic when we think that 5 AM morning routines should come at the cost of our sleep. We know that most adults need 7 to 9 hours of sleep every night, but we also know from studies that 35% of adults don't even get 7 hours of sleep every night. And when we think about university and college students, that figure rises to 60%. And we all know that sleep is important. Just ask Dr. Matthew Walker.
Men who sleep 5 hours a night have significantly smaller testicles than those who sleep 7 hours or more.
Okay.
There is a global experiment performed on 1.6 billion people across 70 countries twice a year, and it's called daylight savings time. In the spring, when we lose 1 hour of sleep, we see a subsequent 24% increase in heart attacks that following day. In the autumn, when we gain an hour of sleep, we see a 21% reduction in heart attacks.
And we also know that a lack of sleep is associated with increased cardiovascular risk and increased mortality risk as well. Sleep is so important that the World Health Organization has classified shift work as a probable carcinogen. And so moving on, you might have heard of the idea of sleep chronotypes, and Professor Matthew Walker talks about it in his book, Why We Sleep. So the two chronotypes that you might have heard of are the morning larks and the night owls. And we actually have genetic differences that are inbuilt in us, which make us more likely to be one of the two. So the morning larks would go to sleep early and they'd also wake up early, whereas the night owls would go to sleep late and wake up late. And this was really important to primitive tribes of humans, where this variability meant that we were collectively asleep for a shorter period of time each night. And that meant that some people could keep an eye out for predators while the other people slept. So therefore, 50% of people should be night owls and the other 50% should be morning larks. But the problem is that society puts a lot of pressure on night owls, because the thing is that night owls can't sleep until late. But then they often have to wake up early in order to make commitments, such as school or work. And so what that means is that they might not get enough sleep. And the other thing is that we make the assumption that staying up late is associated with being unproductive. But for some people, the late hours of the night are where they actually get most of their productive work done. And if you think about it, I don't think that you can really reduce sleep into two chronotypes, because there's so much variability in the sleep spectrum. And so there's two more chronotypes that I like to add into the mix. And these are the dolphins, who have trouble following any sleep schedule at all, as well as the birds, who rise and fall asleep with the sun. And honestly, most of us probably fall into a small mix of the four. Even though we've talked so much about morning larks and night owls and genetic diversity, we all know that we all have quite a bit of bear which influences our sleep schedules as well. And I mean, it makes sense. So melatonin is the hormone which is responsible for signaling sleep. And when we look at concentrations in the human body, it's highest in concentration when it's very dark, around 2 AM. So I think what I'm trying to say is that you don't necessarily need to wake up at 5 AM to be productive. I think just depending on our chronotypes, our genetic differences, and our commitments, we can make schedules that align to us and still be productive. And I mean, I want to touch on my experience as well. And personally, I think that I am a bear/morning lark. I don't really have too much trouble waking up early, but I also hate waking up before the sun is up, so it's a bit of a love-hate relationship there. I had a weird phase a few years ago when I would wake up at 5 a.m, I would go for a jog, I'd meditate, and all of that jazz. And somehow I had really good energy levels throughout the day as well. But the thing is, to me, right now, I think that's crazy. I don't think I could do that anymore. And I think that just goes to show that your chronotype isn't fixed in stone either. Depending on your sleep habits and how you have to schedule your life, your chronotypes can slightly adjust. But the important thing to remember is that even though I was waking up at 5 a.m. back then, I always prioritized my sleep. So if I wanted to wake up at 5 a.m, I would go to bed at 9:30, which meant that I would get my 7.5 hours of sleep. And honestly, getting that 7.5 hours of sleep consistently is probably what gave me so much energy through that phase of my life. I think last year, my sleep habits went out the door. I think quarantine and learning from home messed up my sleep schedule nicely. And I mean, this is just a problem that we have to face in these times. I would wake up like 5 minutes before class, take 2 steps to my desk, and log into Zoom. So in summary, it is what it is. I don't think it's necessarily healthy to live to society's expectations of waking up early and being productive. I think that some people naturally gravitate towards waking up early and doing their work then, and other people like to stay up into the late hours of the night and they're most productive at that time. With me, I usually like to get my work done in the morning, but the thing is, after 2 p.m, my brain is off. On the other hand, I know loads of people who love to work at night and are super productive then. I think at the end of the day, if I was to summarize this video into 2 sentences, it would be sleep as naturally as you can, but try to get 7 to 9 hours of sleep every night. But the thing is, if you want an extra hour in your mornings to be productive and get some stuff done before you go to work or before you go to class, go for it. But don't feel like you have to wake up at 5 a.m. just to have a productive day. And that's the end of the video, guys. Thumbs if you enjoyed it, subs if you loved it, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.